are live with Quardeay, author of Me and My Husband Don't Want You. I know you guys read that. You had to because I know I did. Okay, hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great on this late night. This is about to be fun. So, do you want to get into questions first or do you want to talk about your book? How do you want to do this?
Oh, we can run it any way you want to.
Okay, first of all, you already know I'm about to ask you about this book. His new release, Me and My Husband Don't Want You. This is an epic book about pleasure and all of the above. You know you finna get that with Cartier. So, what do you want to tell your fans about this who haven't yet read it?
Well, this book was essentially just another way for me to combine my two favorite genres, erotica and the thriller aspect of literature. You know, anything that touch on erotica in a kind of twisted way, I like to do. So that's what that I'm reached out for that book.
Okay, and who is your favorite character in that book? Like your absolute favorite? Like when you was writing him or her, like what made you want to create this dynamic character?
I would say that the villain, Diamond Rose, is my favorite character because when I was able to write for her, her dialogue and her bio and her background and every scene that involved her, I was able to put myself in an element I wasn't used to. And you know, the character Diamond Rose is really, she's not just more or less a villain, she's kind of a sympathetic villain, so to speak, because she has a lot of pain and a lot of torture mentally and physically that she'd like to try to take out on, you know, other human anatomy. So it's a character that I can add so much for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made her really my favorite because when I was able to write for her, you know, I was able to go into a darker persona and I was able to kind of test myself. And I had a lot of fun. You know, I love having a lot of villains in my book because I have more fun being a villainous character. So that's why I would say Diamond Rose is my favorite character.
Yeah, I love that you said that, like, you combined thriller with erotica. That's very different. You know, that's very different in that to go in that route and, you know, change it up a little bit. And the fact that you like writing villains, I love that. That is like to make a sexy villain, you know, make her all powerful and like in her eyes she can do no wrong, but she's doing all the wrong and she loves doing it and she thinks she can get away with it. That's what I love about the book. Exactly. That's exactly what I want to hear about that character because she's different. You know, she's not like everybody else. She just wants what she wants and she's gonna get it. I love that.
Exactly.
Okay, if you've written multiple books, you're multi-talented. What other genres have you gone in, or do you want to go in, sort of say?
Well, aside from erotica, I've done a lot of romance, just typical romance without a lot of sex scenes. But I think another kind of brand for me has always been doing poetry. I'm a huge fan of poetry.
Oh, okay.
I do plan on at some point doing something with poetry, maybe releasing a poetry collection of some sort. So I always try to incorporate a lot of poetry and collaborate that with whatever characters I have. You know, since Me and My Husband Don't Want You, I had, you know, the character Brianna Marshall doing poetry at the end. It's another way for me to kind of release any kind of pain in my soul. You know, it's another way for me to kind of paint this on this canvas in my mind. So I always try to put poetry in everything I do. So I've done a lot of poetry, like I said, a lot of romance. I've done a lot of urban thrillers. I would love to try to do more street lit in the future, maybe combining erotica with street lit, doing something like that. I've done just a little bit of street lit, but not too much. So I would like to go further into that in the future. But I know that erotica is really like my main genre, and that's my bread and butter. But, you know, to try to put yourself out of that and test yourself and see what you can and can't do, you know, it's never a bad thing. Because, you know, in the future, then you'll know what you're better at and what you're not good at all.
Exactly. So, how long have you been writing erotica? Like when did you first start writing books? Period.
Well, I started writing, like, my first book was self-published at the age of 20. I've been writing since I was 15, though. I started with short stories, and I would do, like, these part 1 or part 3 short stories, and I would post them on Facebook, and I would, have so many parts to them, and then they would turn into spin-offs, and then I started to slowly transition those short stories into a full-fledged novel. So by the time I was 20, I finished it, self-published it, and released it, just kind of for my students at school and my friends at school during my first year of college, and I got great, reviews for that, good reception. And that's when I began to look for a publisher. So by the time I turned 21, I had my first publisher, Janae Sullivan, and then that's where really my career took off. And the rest of the next day is history.
Wow, me and you really do have like that in common. Like everything you said sounds like everything I did. Like you started writing at 15. I started writing at 10, but it was like you said, poetry. I was writing poetry for a long time, and then that's when I fell in writing books when I was 16, and I published my first book on my own on Wattpad, for everybody to read for free and everything like that. Then I got signed and published at age of 21. So that's nice. That's a lot in common. There's a very lot in common right there. So this is about to get crazy at this part. This question I have to ask you. Okay, your books are steamy. We all know that. But how do you keep your composure when writing those scenes?
Well, I consider erotica to be multifaceted. It's one of those genres that can test you. When I'm sitting down, usually I have a cup of coffee. I'm a coffee addict. So anytime I'm writing an erotic scene or sex scene that's kind of graphic, or it's something that, kind of it amps you up a little bit. For me, it's always kind of like, okay, well, I got to remember this is entertainment, And even though sex for me is kind of a really exciting part of life, when I'm writing, it's just kind of a way for me to express myself without being able to physically express myself. So, keeping my composure is something that I always have to remember to do when writing those scenes. It's just sometimes it can be harder to write those scenes than other times because, when you're writing the next scene, sometimes you get more excited. You get excited, maybe you want to call somebody and bring them over, things like that. But for me, I don't know. I've always been able to keep my composure writing erotica scenes because it's just kind of one of those things, like I said, it's like poetry for me. It flows straight off the mind. I don't know if it's just based on my experience or just based on the freedom that I have, being able to say what I want, do what I want in a literary form, you know what I mean? So it's really fun. I mean, that's why I think it's easy for me to keep my composure, because it's really fun for me to write sex scenes. Really exciting and really kind of another art form for me.
Okay, so like you write that and everything like that. How do you feel with some readers who really don't give male authors the chance, to test out their books or anything like that? How do you feel about that? Like, what do you want to give them, like for the new readers to be like, you should really read this. It's not just the sex or anything like that. It's more than that. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So how do you feel about that, or like, what would you tell them?
Well, I think male authors deserve more exposure. I think that, like, not just me. I think there's a lot of male authors who aren't getting the exposure they deserve. And for me, writing a lot of erotica, I've always heard the phrase from a lot of readers that, they like to read a lot more from women because they're able to identify, or they're able to sympathize or feel what they're saying, But I would just like to say that I think that a lot of male authors have the talent, and they have a lot of freedom that you're just not, being able to read, because sometimes it gets underrated because of the fact that, a lot of us really aren't maybe publicizing ourselves the way we should. But for me, I would always tell people that it's not just erotica. In my books, there's always a message. There's always a political message. There's always a hidden message. There's always something about heartbreak or tragedy or, child rearing or childbirth or religion. There's always something extra to add on to whatever I write. So that's why I try to be able to expose myself more and talk to more people about my books, because while on the surface they'll look like, hey, it's just another sex book for me, or it's just another, this book or that book. I always tell people that you never know what you might get in a book based on the cover or based on the first chapter. You go deeper into it, and then you'll read something that, or maybe it'll identify with something that's going on in your life, or something that's going on in a friend's life or a parent's life. You know what I mean? So that's why I try to express that. by not giving away everything in the book, in the plot, because I'll tell you, it's just going to be another erotica, and you'll read it, and then it'll be something way deeper than that. So I just hope that in the future, especially with male authors, that there are people that get more exposure because their books are deeper than they're put on to be, and it may just be because of who they're signed to, or maybe it's just because they're not talking enough, or maybe I hope that even, especially with male authors, that we all get the exposures that we deserve, good publicity with that, and that we just all kind of have that same level of success that I believe we all should deserve at this point.
Oh my God, I love that. That is exactly what I really wanted to hear from a male author, because everything you said is very true. Like, very, very true. Writing industry should just not be for women. It should be for both, because we all want both sides to the story. We just don't want from the same perspective all the time. So,
right.
You have a new book out. I had to get quiet for a second because this book is good too. Very good at that. What made you write She Used to Be a Porn Star, Now She's a Boss? Ooh, my God.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. That tested me. That was one that, true story, I wrote it back in, I believe, late February I wrote that. Originally it was supposed to be out way sooner than it was, but I think all things happen for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it becomes a combination of, wanting to incorporate something new, something that people rarely have read, into what I've seen, and what I've read in my past. I wanted to do something with the porn industry. I think adult entertainment isn't covered enough, in not just literary, but in TV. I think that there's a lot of things about the adult entertainment industry that people don't know. So I did my research, and I created this character. I really wrote it as if it were like a real memoir. From one character, which is always hard to do when you write it from one character's perspective for an entire book. But it tested me to create Cypress Ross, because her character had a lot of, just like, and me and my husband don't want you. She's the protagonist, but she also kind of has an antagonistic way of thinking. She's kind of spoiled. She doesn't listen to her parents, or her parents are these religious, civilians who want her to live a certain lifestyle. So she moved away and she's living her own party animal lifestyle, sex-craved lifestyle, and then she gets into the wrong hands, and she gets into an industry she doesn't belong in. And it really tested me as how good of a writer can I be, writing from a woman's perspective. This entire novel, not only that, but also writing from a perspective where this woman she's going through pain. She's dealing with her drug issues and alcohol issues and love interest this, love interest that, and being cheated out of money in the entertainment industry, and the racism and the abuse, and I just wanted to cover all of that. So that's what made me write that. And then hands down, one of my favorites. It was the first book that ever hit #1, and to this day it's the only book as if it were written by somebody else. I have a hard time reading my own books. I don't know why. It's just kind of like you go back and you say, I could have written that scene a little bit better. I could have, added more detail. But that book, I believe, was probably my best book in terms of writing, in terms of the style, in terms of the chapters, in terms of the ending. It's probably one of the greatest books that I've ever written. So I genuinely love that book.
To hear that insight from the author is just awesome. But late night has to end, and it was great talking to you. Is there anybody you want to shout out? Do you want to shout out your social media, anything like that? You can do that now.
I would like to shout out my poetry team, for sure. I believe that piece is a reason for my success. But aside from her, I would like to shout out all the male authors and pretty much every author that I've had success with in the past.